Hello everyone, this is Raven here with another gameplay replay of the Warriors of Chaos versus the Foul Dalwi over here. So, we actually got a little bit of a dual casting action going on today. Going to be casting two games. It's going to be the Greenskins versus the Dwarves as well later on after this one. So let's go ahead and take a look at these two armies as soon as this battle loads up right here. Alright, there we go. So I have 4 units of Chaos Warriors with great weapons over here, and then 3 units of Chaos Marauders in the front line. So Chaos Marauders don't have very good armor, but they're relatively cheap and have good melee stats. And combined with the Chaos Warriors with great weapons, I'm going to just have extremely good damage along the front line for that armor-piercing damage needed against the high armor of the Dwarves. In the front here, Aspiring Champions just kind of buff up the leadership of the Chaos Marauders here with great weapons. Their base leadership is actually 60, so with all the bonuses they have put together, they have 75 leadership. Over here, 83 for the Chaos Warriors. On the flanks over here, you can see 76 and 75. Chaos Warriors don't get the leadership buff from any of these units right here, whereas the Chaos Marauders do. That's why they kind of outrank these guys in leadership by a measly 1. So over here in the back we have a Gorebeast Chariot unit. So I don't typically bring this unit very much unless I'm fighting the Dwarves. They have a good armor-piercing damage and amazing charge bonus, and do cause fear. So just a little bit of a leadership debuff wherever they may be present, and that good armor-piercing damage needed for taking out the Dalwi unit. So these guys look pretty ferocious. I'm gonna see how I can do with the micro on them. Typically I lose micro on my chariots, but we'll see how well I do with them today. Hopefully they perform for me really well. Over here I got the Chaos Lord on the Chaos Dragon over here, the dual-headed ferocity right here. Look at this guy, terrifying. I actually brought the Filth Mace over here, so just added damage. I know it can cause terror, but I already can cause terror because I'm on the dragon, but the added 22% damage is what I was going for, and I brought anything that could buff up my leadership and give me armor-piercing damage, so that's exactly what I did for my Lord. For the other 3 units over here for my leadership core, excluding these 2 guys, I just brought 2 Chaos Pharaoh Manticores, just for the added terror anywhere I could bring it, and then the Chaos Sorcerer with the Lore of Metal. So I brought the Transmutation of Lead over here, minus 22% weapon damage and minus 34 melee attacks. So that's going to be really good in the front line. The Glittering Robe, so plus 30 armor and 8 leadership with an Overcast. It actually gives an area of effect. And over here, the Plague of Rust, minus 30 armor, and then one upgraded has a minus 60 armor value for casting on an enemy lord or any enemy unit that I choose. And then for my opponent over here, for the Dalwi, we actually see Ungrim Iron Fist over here, so very heavy AP damage. Brought the Axe of Dargo, so extra armor-piercing damage and a bonus versus large whenever it's activated. And then, oh, sorry, I dropped my phone right there. I don't know if y'all heard that or not. And then over here, he's got the Foe Seeker and Deadly Onslaught, and the Unbreakable trait, and the leadership buff for all the units. In the front line right here, you have miners with blasting charges, so relatively cheap fodder, but with the additional cost of the blasting charges, they're going to be doing some very good HP damage, even if they do get ran through. That initial just shock damage of the blasting charges prior to any units engaging is going to be pretty brutal. In the back here, you can see 2 Longbeards with great weapons. In the flank here, another Longbeard with great weapon, and another one over here. So 4 of them in total, keeping the flanks and the center secure, having a very strong backbone to this army. And then on either side, Thunderers. So these guys can do some heavy AP damage with that missile fire prior to any of my troops engaging. And in the back here, 3 cannons. So this is absolutely horrible. These guys, whenever they focus fire on anybody, whether it's my Lord or any of my units or any of my Manticores, they're just going to absolutely rip them apart with that extremely high damage right there. Very good range too, and good accuracy because they're dwarven made. Over here, the Master Engineer, so he's actually got a couple abilities. When he activates them as the cannons are firing, they're going to be doing some good damage. So plus 6% explosion, so added damage of 6% right there against any units for the cannons. Plus 30 accuracy, plus 30% accuracy, excuse me, and 20 reload skill. So making these cannons even more effective, and same thing for the Thunderers. And right here, the Entrenchment, this can actually be used on anything. It can be used on artillery, a lord, any kind of unit that you want, and it can make them have that plus 22 physical resistance, plus a 36% armor-piercing missile damage. So using it on Thunders will make them a lot stronger, or using it on any frontline unit will just make them more tanky in the front line and be able to deal with that damage a lot better. So go ahead and kick it off here, and you can see some initial shots coming from these cannons over here. I'm going to have to try and stutter step with my units over here so they don't get nailed right in the face. As you can see, the cannonballs come in, and I'm like, ah, shit. Start diverting my units a little bit. They dodge these 2 cannonballs as they come in. Same thing for my Manticore, just kind of do a little stutter step here and there. So as you can see, avoiding some of the shots, but unfortunately my Chaos Warriors with great weapons get nailed right in the face, losing 5 models immediately. And then they're going to be like, alright, well, we got 2 units right here. I can focus down 1 and be able to plow through all these units. with all 3 of the cannons firing in. So as you can see, they're going to start doing some absolutely terrible damage to my units. Oh god, it's just so painful to watch. This is just going to keep happening for a while. The Dawi are just going to keep blasting away at my units for a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward. Right here, I'm just kind of pre-positioning, moving my units around the flanks, trying to get them in a better spot where I can get a more advantageous charge off with these chariots and my flying units and any exposed unit possible. Over here, you can see that these aspiring champions and these Chaos Marauders were absolutely just devastated. Some more good shots coming in here against the flank, losing 9 models right there and losing 12 right there. So amazing blasting charges coming off, disrupting the charge of all these guys and just throwing them down over and over. Over here, just another juicy target for these blasting charges, but my units finally make it into melee. Over here, you can see that I have my flying units charging to the back, 2 into each of these Thunderers over here, and then another unit of Gorbul's, the Gorby's chariots in here in the back trying to disrupt the cannon just a little bit. Not the best target for them. And the front line engagement is going quite well. I have the glittering robe and the standard die buff going up for my unit, so additional armor and the additional leadership and melee defense, while these units are all debuffed for the minus 34 melee attack and minus 22 weapon damage. So that lasted for quite a while, and I was able to get some good trading damage with all my units. As you can see here, these aspiring champions are being torn apart, sadly, by these miners. They just didn't have enough units and not enough HP when they got into the fight. These Chaos Marauders are going to be routed off the field, unfortunately, due to their low leadership and the routing of the aspiring champions whenever that does occur. So over here, I'm able to pull through with these units of Chaos Warriors. I've sticked them onto these Thunderers, and I'm going to start charging onto these cannons over here. And I start pulling back my leadership core, and I start trying to chase down any routing units, but then I decide I'm going to go ahead and turn around, start re-engaging, start pulling through these units after I got through with this Longbeard unit over here, and start engaging them on whoever I can. And I decided, alright, so right here I'm going to go for all the advantageous charges that I can with all my terror-causing units. I immediately terror route both these cannons. I'm going to terror out this miner unit over here. I'm going to rear charge with my Chaos Dragon into these miners over here. It's going to take a moment, but eventually they'll terror out as well. In the front lines, you can see that my Chaos Warriors are doing good work. These Chaos Marauders actually paying for themselves with 59 kills right here, and they're still in the fight, encouraged by all these units nearby. I do get some good charges off of my Gorby's chariots, however, I do lose micro on them just for a moment, and Gungrim Iron Fist comes in here hot and heavy and absolutely devastates these 2 units that I have, and then they get some flanking shots in by these regrouped Thunderers over here, so that's just highly unfortunate for me. I did bring in my Chaos Sorcerer of the lower metal in here to start trying to terror out these units, but then immediately Ungrim is just sicked on him, and I'm just like, oh, no. I pull him out as fast as possible. Him with his 70 armor is going to be relatively squishy against Ungrim with his very heavy AP, so did not want that engagement at all. Right here, I start pulling these Chaos Warriors with great weapons in for a rear charge against these miners, just trying to free up these aspiring champions to do whatever I can with them. Over here, this fight is going in my favor very slowly, but I popped all my buffs that I could over here, trying to heal up my Lord and pop the melee defense and leadership buffs that I had for him as well, trying to get these units to stay as tanky as possible and take relatively as little damage as possible and try and win this flank as fast as possible, because if I can get these guys into the rear charges over here and start reinforcing these routing units over here, I'll start having another solid line to be able to engage my enemy with over here. So you can see that this unit of Chaos Warriors with great weapons is actually taking quite a lot of damage. They do have a lot going against them right here. They got these Longbeards with great weapons, and then the Master Engineer over here is providing some good flanking shots in against these guys, and Ungrim Iron Fist just did not give any fucks, especially with that flanking fire from the Thunderer Stir coming in quite hot and heavy. So I do stick my Chaos Pharaoh Manticore on him. I start pulling this one back because I'm like, okay, what do I have left to take out? So I win this flank finally. Finally, I win this flank, and I start charging these units back to try and take out these miners with blasting charges, and I start sticking the very far unit over here with the, the furthest away unit with my Chaos Lord. I start bringing back this Chaos Pharaoh Manticore as well, and I start trying to charge all of his units with all my flying units, trying to take out everything on the outsides and start dealing with his Lord. So over here you can see that all of his units are starting to shatter and break and flee in terror as army losses do kick in. And over here I cast the Plague of Rust upgraded version on the Ungrim Iron Fist over here, so he actually is down to 70 armor, so this is just an unfortunate situation for him right here. As you can see, these Chaos Warriors with great weapons are in here doing some good armor-piercing damage, and all these Manticores start flying in, and then the big Papa coming in right here with his Filth Mace popped, and all of his buffs going as much as he can do, standard die going. So right here, Ungrim Iron Fist is going to be defeated very slowly right here. The last hit going to come in from the Chaos Lord. Sorry, the Manticore right there, and slice his throat, and you can see he grabs his throat as he starts going down to the ground, dying, gurgling on his blood. Alright, so very atrocious fight at the beginning for my units, but in the end, they are able to power through with all that armor-piercing damage against those relatively weak miners, and the Terror played a very good role in being able to take out his back line as well as the flying being able to keep my units relatively safe. So these guys staying relatively healthy, being able to do good work against all of his damage-dealing units in the back over here. So, oh, sorry about that. Drop some papers. My dog over here trying to act up a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and continue from here, load up another replay. It's going to be the Greenskins versus the Dwarves now. Go ahead and let this load up a little bit. Hopefully this can load up a little bit faster. I'm going to try and get some solid state drives and install it into my computer and install all the games onto them and try and make them load a lot faster for y'all so you have less loading times when I'm playing campaign or doing online battles and trying to do dual casting action. So over here you can see that I did bring Azag the Slaughterer on his mount over here. Skull Muncher, I believe is what it's named. So he is a flying lord today. This is one of the few times that I enjoy bringing Azag is against the Dowie, because although they do have the gyrocopters and gyro bombers, typically they don't bring a lot of them, so I'm going to be able to have a little bit of fun with him today because there only is one in the sky. So over here, I do have a relatively thick formation of 4 nasty Skulker units mixed in with 2 Black Orcs and the Crimson Killers over here, so able to do that splash damage with heavy AP. These guys are absolute trucks in the front line. They will power through any kind of infantry you put them up against. They are absolutely monstrous. The only thing is, they do have a relatively lower model count than these Black Orcs, 15 less, and they do suffer from less HP as well. So targeted down by anything like the Wrath of Ruin or cannons, things like that will be quite devastating to these units. But if they're able to get in unimpeded, they're going to be doing absolutely amazing work for your front line. So mixed in with the nasty Skulkers, the horrible leadership of Goblins tied in with the amazing armor-piercing damage of these daggers. Also right here, the Smoke Bomb, minus 76% speed, minus 76% charge speed. So very good work in the front line. Mixed in with the Squigs as well, very heavy AP damage with bonus versus infantry as well, an amazing charge bonus of 40. So in the back here, Knight Goblin Archers, I got the Rusty Arrows who have a minus 30 armor debuff whenever they take any kind of unit that they attack with their arrows. Tied in with the other 2 Night Goblins right here, this is going to be a very powerful back line for these archers, even though they do have that really short range of 115. So initially I do see the Goblobber over here for my unit, so I'm going to have to go for a spaghetti formation, try and spread out my units, but we'll go over that in just a moment. So in the front here you can actually see that he has 4 units of Dwarf Warriors, and in the back here 2 units of Miners with blasting charges. So this will be interesting to see if they can get any of these blasting charges off before the engagement starts, because they are going to be a little bit obstructed, but they are on a little bit of an uphill curve right here, so perhaps a few charges will be able to get off, but we'll see. In the back here, in the middle, the Grumbling Guard supporting the center of this unit, so that Vigor buff is going to be able to buff all these units. In the back here, 3 units of Quarrelers, very good damage, 21 damage on each of these guys with their missile being able to throw in against the low armor of the nasty Skulkers or my own Goblin units who they outrange are going to be very good. On either side, we got a unit of Slayers, one being the Dragonback variety. So they have that Death Blow, the Unbreakable, and then the Regiment of Renowned ability, Flammable. So plus 25% flame damage to anybody that has it against them. Unfortunately, he doesn't have it anywhere in here, but also minus 36% speed, so if they're able to catch anybody, they'll make them a little bit slower, and then they do have that physical resistance of 20% as well, compared to the regular Slayers who do not. Over here, Gyrocopters with Brimstone Guns, so these guys are going to do some good work against anti-large units, against large units with their anti-large damage that they might have on there. And in the back here, the Goblobber, so this guy is actually pretty devastating whenever he gets some hits off. As you can see here, he has a Discourage bonus right here. Any unit struck by it have minus 16 leadership, as well as the debuff from being attacked by artillery going off as well. So very good damage coming out of the Goblobber whenever it hits somebody. In the middle here, Thorgrim Grudgebearer has all his buffs. So let's take a quick look at them. Sorry, gonna go ahead and pause this real quick. So plus 12 melee attack for everybody in the area, and then another plus 8 melee attack and plus 12 weapon percent damage whenever his leadership drops less than 50. And then the stand your ground plus 16 leadership, plus 36 melee defense for all these units. So he's gonna be able to keep these relatively cheap warriors in the fight for a very long time and be able to buff up their attack quite substantially. As you can see, 42 attack and 40 defense. So these guys are no joke. They're gonna be in there and do some good work, especially with that good armor. But relatively low damage is going to be their only downfall here. As you can see, some initial shots coming off These goblobbers, these poor goblins tied to these rocks right here coming in, taking out some black orcs, so a very juicy target. Personally, I would have gone for these Crimson Killers right here because, like I said, they are a more high priority target. If I get them in and start doing any kind of work against the front line, the splash damage will be doing amazing work against these Dwarf Warriors. And we got some initial skirmishing going off, like I said, just shots coming in. I'm going to be pre-positioning my army, spreading them out, and then having them charge in. As you can see, this is the formation I'm going with. Quite wide, a little bit messed up right here, but that's just because I'm trying to charge them in. And I was fixing the formation on the fly and then hard grouping them. So good quarreler fire coming in here, doing some amazing HP damage against these nasty skulkers. So this is rather unfortunate for me, but we'll see how it pans out for me in the future right here. So over here chasing with my Azag the Slaughterer, chasing off these brimstone guns over here on these gyrocopters, trying to get rid of them, keep them away from firing on any of my units, and trying to keep him safe as well. He does take some good HP damage against any quarrelers that are shooting at him momentarily. So I start charging in all my units right here, activate the charge command, and then this gyrocopter comes right here and fucks up the charge command on all these units, and that made me very sad. As you can see, all these blasting charges are going to get off against these nasty skulkers, and it's going to almost rout them entirely right before they even engage. So I'm going to have to bring Azag around, and I'm starting to chase these gyrocopters again, and I get off a Spirit Leech on the Thorgrim Grudgebearer right there. You might have heard it right there. And I activate the charge command again, try and get these guys in as fast as possible, and then bring in this Black Orc unit along the flank over here. So they do get shot down a little bit by the Brimstone guns right here, but I'm going to have a path command and bring them in against these Dragonback Slayers because they are going to be able to do the best work against them and be able to take the least amount of damage. So they do have the 110 armor. So over here in the front line, you can see that the Ruin of Oath and Still and Ruin of Negation coming off of the Ruin Smith right here. I forgot to look at him, but he is there. He has 3 standard Ruins and then the Leadership Ruin, trying to keep the front line in the fight as long as possible. So in the back here, you can see my Night Goblin Archers are doing some ferocious damage. They absolutely tore apart these Grumbling Guard right here, and I actually got a Fate of Buna off with them. On them as well with Azag. So over here, Dwarf Warriors are being focused down pretty hard, as well as the Grumbling Guard right here. So I'm just trying to do as much damage as I can with my Goblin Archers in the back right here. I'm finally going to win this engagement over here with these Slayers. So this is actually a pretty interesting unit to have on either flank is some Slayers, because they are unbreakable and they do fight to the last man, as unbreakable would imply. It does take until your micro realizes, oh, there's only one model left, or until that unit dies, until you start pulling them in. So over here, you can see that I bring in Azag. I'm trying to disrupt all the quarreler fire from doing any work that I can. Over here, the Goblin Archers in the back are just pouring in all this heavy fire, just withering against these poor quarrelers who do not have that shield bonus of 35% as they are facing this way, and they do start facing towards my units as they start being killed right here in this little block and start marching forward over here. And then the Grumbling Guard are being picked apart, as well as the Thorgrim Grudgebearer, because they are just standing within the proximity of all these goblins firing in. Over here, some Growly and Ghastly Skulkers coming in for some rear charges on all these Dwarven units right here. Can be able to do some good AP damage over here. And unfortunately, this damn Goblobber is still active in the back line. I'm finally able to get Azag on it and start trying to route this as fast as possible. So you're going to be seeing that he's going to be doing some good HP damage against them and be able to terror route them quite soon. Over here, Thorgrim Grudgebearer does have that plus 30 armor and is at 150 armor, so that's just quite unfortunate for me. These Brimstone guns are still doing some withering fire against my units over here. My Goblin Big Boss is being torn apart, sadly, in the front lines, and these Squigs are being just shot down. But I'm going to start pulling all my units in here, start trying to take out this Ruin Smith and any of the Grumbling Guard and Dwarf Warriors that are over here that I can. And I'm going to start whittling down this group over here with my Goblin units, and I start bringing in my Black Orcs that were routed by the Dragon Black Slayers back into the fight as fast as possible, trying to get them into the rear over here and try and do as much damage as possible. As I said, just focusing down as hard as possible into this little group right here. So as you can see, all the armor is being debuffed by these guys. So minus 30, minus 30, minus 30. So obviously Dragonback Slayers having no armor, it doesn't really affect them, but they would have that minus 30 on them. So thankfully I am able to get some Squigs in here. They're going to start doing some good damage. Just look at this charge come in. There they go. Squigs go wild, as they say. Getting in here, just doing absolutely punishing charge damage against them. Over here, finally able to surround these Quarrelers on their flank, get all these units punching in over here, and I start trying to target down the Thorgrim Grudgebearer over here, but sadly these Brimstone gun gyrocopters come in here and start doing melee combat against my Night Goblin Archers. I don't have them in guard mode, so they all start trying to engage when they could have been firing on their exposed lord over here and doing some really good damage over here. You can see the end of Spirit Leech going off on him, so trying to drain his HP with Azag as fast as possible as well. Because if I can start breaking the HP of him, the more HP that he loses, the more likely he is to rout, even though he is a very, very sturdy lord when it comes to maintaining his leadership and staying in the fight as long as possible. But the damage and army losses are going to start kicking in for all of his units, and as I start ripping them apart with all my units still in the fight here and Azag being in here in the fight, they're just going to start routing. Shatter is going to start being very common across all of his units, as you can see, excuse me. They all start routing, and all that's left are the Dragonback Slayers. You can see over here the Ruinsmith left, and Thorgrim Grudgebearer was left alive, if barely, just trying to escape the fight. So, in the end, you know, quite an atrocious fight, but my Crimson Killers over here, like I said, as soon as they got into the front line, just absolutely ripped everything apart. 108 kills on them, 59 and 44 kills on both these Goblin Big Bosses. Unfortunately, this one got torn apart by the leadership of the Dwarves, and Azag being able to do some good damage, being able to shut down the Goblobber before he was able to get those punishing minus 16 shots, minus 16 leadership shots off on any of my units. That could have been backbreaking in the late game right there with the low leadership and tattered forces that I had. Any of those splash damages that it caused against my units would have been absolutely brutal and probably might have tipped it in his favor. So thankfully I was able to shut it down before it got any more than the 72 kills it did get. Oh, here these gyrocopters did do some good work for him. I wasn't able to really kill them that effectively with Azag because I couldn't chase them down. They are just 5 movement speed faster than them, unfortunately. Thorgrim in here in the front line was an absolute beast, absolutely able to tear apart my front lines, and these blasting charges actually were able to do some really good work against those nasty skulkers. One of them being absolutely torn apart was this unit before he was able to actually engage, so good on him being able to use those blasting chargers to a good effectiveness, but overall his front line was just eaten alive. They just weren't able to contend with the units that I brought today. So very good game to you, Magic Matix, and I'll hopefully see you again on the ladder. As always, guys, if you like what you saw, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you'd like to see more of my content. I try and produce new videos every day or so and post them up on my channel here. I might start doing live streams as well pretty soon, so we'll see about that. And as always, guys, leave a comment down in the comment section down below if you'd like to leave some criticism on how to make this a better viewing experience for your pleasure. And as always, guys, I'll catch y'all later.